Those Were the Days is filmed before a live internet audience.
Oh, if you hear that sound, you know it's time for Those Were the Days. Imagine, if you will, your four hosts walking through bustling downtown streets while avoiding cars, people, and rain by putting a briefcase over their heads. The elevator doors open at their office building where they bump into each other before breaking into silent laughter under the jaunty tunes of the show intro. And the frame freezes on the neurotic therapy patient, Travis.
So we've learned a few things this month about Christmas, right? Charlie Brown taught me about the true meaning of Christmas, and Perfect Strangers taught me about the true meaning of family. And this show taught me about a glass of ham.
the doctor friend, comic relief down the hall, Amy.
All right, look, Bob, I know that you're upset that you have to have this surgery and that you're upset that it's happening around Christmas. That's terrible. But your logic about why it has to be on Christmas is fundamentally flawed. You see, the arrival of the kings is traditionally celebrated on Epiphany, which is January 6th. And you see, the 12 days of Christmas actually start on Christmas. You got plenty of time, my dude. Don't even worry about it.
Oh, wow. I just got educated. And the witty secretary at the desk, Audie.
So I got the cranberry sauce from the store, the usual can, and I open it up. I'm like, well, I can't just do this one thing on the tree. I guess I'll have to slice it up. So I sliced it up and I put the string through it, but every single slice would just fall right off. I don't understand. I need to go ask Emily about this.
I really love that behind the scenes view of the stringed cranberry sauce. The first thing I noticed when I turned this show on, because I haven't watched this show in years, is that the 70s had a trend of people walking down the street for the intro, like to go to wherever they're going. Like Welcome Back Kotter did it. This did it. Mary Tyler Moore did it. Rhoda probably did it. Taxi had you driving, but I mean, it's basically the same thing.
Idea.
Yeah, we're all going to work. So the 70s is basically responsible for the way we work today. So everyone sat down to have leisure and we're like, let's watch people work. Welcome to America. Yeah, so that was eye-opening for me, and I love the jaunty tunes. I was all about this Bob Newhart experience. And one thing I did learn when I was looking up the thing about the walking into work, I immediately thought Mary Tyler Moore. Turns out this was picked up by the Mary Tyler Moore and her husband to produce and be a part of the MTM network of television shows. So that whole jam makes a lot of sense all of a sudden. I'm like, oh, it's the same
Nice
idea.
Real quick, I have to say, when I was watching this episode, two names came up in the opening credits that I did not expect, and that I was very glad to see, but just completely blown away by. One was this episode was co-written by Tom Patchett. If that name doesn't sound familiar, he was the creator of Alf.
Oh,
he created the Alf TV show with Paul Fusco, and also the Bob Newhart show was co-created by the voice of Garfield, Lorenzo Music.
Yeah.
Yeah.
holy cow!
I actually had to stop, rewind. I'm like, I think I saw that name. I had to sit through the first ad break on Hulu twice because of that.
Yeah. I was like, there's no way.
Yeah, I'm like, no.
Two of them? I don't.
There's another. I mean, all those Lorenzo Musics that are running around in Hollywood.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, the voice of Garfield co-created the Bob Newhart show.
See, that explains a lot. Because Garfield and Bob have a very similar humor. They both play the deadpan straight man to everybody else's shenanigans. So it actually makes a lot of sense to me. That I mean, I know Lorenzo Music was the voice of Garfield, but it seems to jive. Those two things.
Yeah, it works.
Yeah, I like it.
Yeah.
So the Bob Newhart show. Now it comes to no one's surprise that I like old people doing old people things on television. I don't know
No
what's
surprise
wrong
at
with me. Yeah, no. I told our buddy, a friend of the show, Phil. He messaged me. He's like, "It is no surprise to me that you are picking Bob Newhart." I was like, "You've only known me for like 2 or 3 years, and you've already got me pegged. Like it didn't take long. I guess I wear it on my sleeve." But funny enough, this Bob Newhart show is not the one I was initially going to pick. The other one is not streaming anywhere. But the one I spent the most time with when I was younger was Newhart. It was his show in the 80s where he plays an innkeeper in Vermont. That was kind of my show. That's the Larry, Daryl, and Daryl, gag that they played all the time. And if you're not familiar with that, don't worry. It will stream at some point, and I'll get it in this show.
We'll get there. Yeah.
But the Bob Newhart show was on Nick at Night for a while, and I remember it coming on, and I remember enjoying watching it, even though it didn't, for some reason, Taxi resonated with me more than this show did. But I'm still really pumped I picked this Christmas episode, which is kind of a stretch for Chris. It has the word Christmas in it. It takes place in Christmas. It's not really like, it's not Charlie Brown, It's
No,
not
it's
Perfect
good,
Strangers. It's
We learn all about the paper cup and
Yeah.
that was good.
that's the true meaning of Christmas. It's
It really
fine.
is. It really is. It makes it works. It works.
Mhm.
So, do you guys have any familiarity with either Bob Newhart as a person or this particular show? Because he's been around forever. We'll start with you, Travis.
So, okay, I know Bob Newhart. The biggest impression on me as a kid was he was one half of the Rescuers.
Mhm.
Yeah.
With Ava Gabor. So that's like the thing that when I think of Bob Newhart, that's the first kind of images that pop into my head is the Rescuers, and more specifically the Rescuers Down Under was the one that I watched more of.
Mm-hmm.
But I do remember Newhart, the 80s series where he was the innkeeper. I remember that more than this one. But same with you. It popped up on Nick at Night. I remember catching episodes every once in a while. And I like Bob Newhart's comedy. His style is great. He plays that, like you said, that straight man to everybody else's shenanigans really, really well. So yeah, I like Bob Newhart, and I had a good time with the show.
Yeah. Cool. Adi, how about you?
Excuse me. When it comes to Newhart, this is my first time watching a show of his. Like Travis, I knew of him because of the Rescuers, like Disney movie with this famous guy is doing the voice of one of the characters. Awesome, cool. But yeah, I had no history with the Bob Newhart show. I had no history with Newhart. I knew of both of them only because of the Newhart show finale and the whole thing they did with that.
Mhm.
Oh yeah.
I think I've watched more Bob Newhart in what is it? What's the stupid show that he's been on recently?
He was in Big Bang Theory, and
That's what it is, Big
Yeah.
Bang Theory. Just because I watched that show a lot, and he showed up a lot, and was funny in that. But yeah, this is my first actually watching the Bob Newhart show. And I dug it.
nice. Okay, cool. I'm going to be interested to hear how you feel about it. Amy, how about you?
I definitely know who Bob Newhart is. I couldn't necessarily tell you why, because like I did like the Rescuers, but I wouldn't have known his name. So I literally do not know why I could like if you showed me a picture and I could go, aha, that's Bob Newhart. I know that one. Like I don't know why.
Sure.
So I hadn't watched anything before. So here we are.
You really,
Those
when you
two.
guys mentioned the Rescuers, because I loved the Rescuers as well, and it wasn't until I was older that I picked together like, oh snap, that's Bob Newhart's voice, because it was always just
Yeah.
who it was. But it kind of shocked me that he didn't do more voice work, because he has a very unique way of speaking. It's not so much like his voice itself; it's just his stammer that he does, a little bit of
Yeah.
stutter, and he plays the
Yeah.
character in the Rescuers absolutely perfect to Bianca's confidence. And he's just
Yep.
like, oh, let me just get the bags here. I'll put them on the bird. It's just,
Yeah, he was the perfect foil for
Mhm.
Yeah.
Bianca.
Oh yeah, is
Mhm.
absolutely. It doesn't strike you as a rescuer at all. But yeah, I mean, that's what they do. If you haven't seen The Rescuers, by the way, what are you doing? Go watch that movie.
Yeah.
The first one and the second. One thing that I remember about The Rescuers that freaked me out the most was when the evil lady takes off her fake eyelashes. And as a kid, I didn't realize there were fake eyelashes in the world. I thought she was ripping her eyelashes off her eyes, and it messed me up. Like, what is she doing? Anyway.
Okay, I also gotta bring up Skeezix in the chat says he was also in the Librarian movies. And I remember those too, just because I remember watching those TV movies. What were they? TNT, I guess?
Yeah, they were
Something
like that.
TNT TV movies. I know of them. I think I might have watched one of them when I had my job working overnights at a hotel.
Yeah.
Um,
He was basically
and
the Alfred for those
Yes.
movies.
Okay.
that's what I
Um,
remember.
To Noah Wiley starring as this wannabe Indiana Jones type character.
I got you.
So they're fun little movies.
There's room for more, of those kinds of movies. We should have them. It's great. They're great. Yeah, this is. I mean, Bob Newhart came from. He kind of grew out of stand-up routines, is where a lot of these comedy people come from. But he kind of worked himself into what I would consider like that Hollywood royalty of that age. Because I look at like Dick Van Dyke and Bob as being very similar in how they just now they're it's because they're old. They're all 90 something and they made it. You got your Mel Brooks and your Bob Newharts and everybody. And so I always think about him with those like legends that are still with us somehow. I think he's 93 or something now.
It's got to be close. He's born in like 1929.
Yeah, it was
so.
29. So he's 93 now. But
And
his
FYI, still alive.
yeah,
Everybody.
yeah,
Still kicking it. Like was acting up until 2 years ago. Still, I'm like, good gosh, man.
yeah. He's. I'm telling you, the old when they stay busy. Carl Reiner was almost 100, and he was working up till the day it was over.
Yep.
And his whole thing was, I would get up every morning, and if I'm not in the obit, I eat breakfast. It's perfect. It's perfect, Carl Reiner. But Bob Newhart got his start as he was a copywriter at an agency where he and a buddy of his, who was a coworker, would call each other on the phone and just make up stupid stories with each other. Like, it was very much a Carl Reiner, Mel Brooks kind of, we're just going to make jokes with each other for ourselves. And then they ended up recording them and sending them to radio stations as audition tapes to try and make it. And his buddy ended up moving on, but he kept the shtick going by going to nightclubs and taking a phone with him and having one-sided conversations with people on the phone. And that became his whole deal. He would be like the straight guy on the one hand talking down the nut on the other side, but with context, which probably wouldn't work so well now. But back then, we were real into that kind of entertainment. Phones were new. Yeah,
I mean, now they would just have a podcast, so it's fine.
Right.
They would just actually talk to another person.
Yeah.
But I did watch some of the stand-up that he did with I think he was an air traffic controller and he had a headset he was pretending to talking to, and it was pretty good. It was better than a lot that you may have seen in the past. But yeah, so he got started that way, and then he was discovered by Mary Tyler Moore, and then they did a variety show that lasted for a season, and then they gave this a try. They're like, okay, let's put you in this as a therapist, Dr. Robert Hartley. You'll talk to some people, you'll have situations, but his big thing that he liked about like the way he did his comedy is he was always the straight man. Everybody else around him would have the thing going on, and he would just deadpan everything. So it kind of gave a lot of other people the spotlight to do the funny stuff, but then the way he was reacting to their funny stuff was also funny stuff. So it just worked for everybody. So yeah, that was good. But that's just some facts I found about Bob. But we can talk about the episode itself, which is Bob has to have his tonsils out, so he spends Christmas Eve in the hospital. That's the official title of the episode, which just why try it? Sometimes you don't need to be clever. Let's just put the summary in there.
Sure.
So
As long as it fits.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So we kick off getting to the show with Elliot Carlin, Bob's patient, in the office with him, and this is how they kick off a lot of episodes of Bob Newhart, is those two talking to each other. And so Elliot's telling him what he put on his Christmas list this year, because no one had given him anything the year before, so he wants this year to be better. So he's buying himself some gifts: shoes, galoshes, a belt, and a toupee. Which this guy has a full head of hair.
He sure does.
Yeah, like lots of
That you know
1970s
of.
hair. Yeah, right.
Unless that's the toupee, unless that's a toupee he's already got.
Maybe that is.
And he
a
just
toupee.
wants a secondary.
Yeah. And this is where this gag actually had me laughing out loud right away. When he says nobody gave him anything the last year, Bob says, "Well, I gave you something. I gave you that sweater. It was too small and it was ugly." It's like, well, it wasn't that ugly. He's like, "Yeah, it was. That's why I'm giving it back to you this year. I've got it right here, Bob. Small ugly sweater." And that tickled me to no end. Let's just the guy's just re-gifting right out of the gate.
Yeah.
And pretty excited that he doesn't have to give people anything if he doesn't want to, as we learn in a moment when they walk out and we see Carol, played by Marsha Wallace, who is amazing in this show. And I'm disappointed this episode didn't have more Carol, because there is a whole lot of stuff going on, and she's usually the one with the snarky responses. She's just fantastic at what she does. But he tells
She
her
still shined in what little she had in this episode, though.
yes, yeah, she's really good. And like we were talking about last week with Perfect Strangers, everyone on this set loved each other, so there was no animosity. So it's another one of those things you can just relax and enjoy. Yeah, Amy, it's okay. These people were all friends.
Good.
They actually cried that they had to leave at the finale because they enjoyed working with each other so much. So you got that going for you when you watch this show. No prima donnas here. Everybody's having a good time. But when Carol tells Elliot he doesn't have to get her anything, he gives her this look when he's in the elevator. He's like, "Oh, really? All right. Well, this one less thing, this eyeball while he's scratching off the notes."
Yeah,
I love
that was
Elliot.
hilarious. So writing down notes. Okay, I'll get you this. You don't have to give me anything. Really? Okay, awesome.
This Christmas is getting
Take that
better and
right
better.
off. That's great.
So this is where we start getting into why Bob is going to be in the hospital. Bob has a bad cough. I don't know what tonsillitis is like. Is that just your
He's
tonsils
got
are
a sore
inflamed?
throat.
Okay.
Yeah.
Talked about a sore throat and stuff. Yes, Julia went through this a while back, and she kept getting what they thought was strep,
Mhm.
and then finally was like, "No, this is actually tonsillitis. Let's do something about it." So
Okay. Is that like an
Yeah.
antibiotic thing nowadays? Right?
It can be. I think it depends how bad. And usually it's like if it's recurring,
Mm-hmm.
they just
Yeah.
take them out because
that's what it was with Julia. Like she
Yeah.
kept getting the
Oh,
sore
yeah.
throat, and they finally diagnosed it. So
They used to take tonsils like you blink funny,
the
and they're
time.
like, "You don't need those. Let's go yank them
Yeah.
out of your throat." They don't do that anymore. Now they're like, "Oh, you had strep 15 times. Let's just see one more time. If you get it one more time, we'll take them out." Yeah. My sister doesn't have tonsils. My dad doesn't have tonsils. I managed to keep mine. We're all good here.
There you go.
You know,
Yeah.
Mhm.
you don't
Yep,
need
still got
them.
mine.
But they're
Me too.
No.
they do a job. They're not as vestigial as we once thought. They have a purpose. That's why they get infected with stuff all the time. Your first line of defense. This is where we also get our first introduction to Jerry, the dentist that works down the hall, because he comes down to see what's up, and Carol's like, "Oh, well, Bob says he's got a sore throat, sinus, he's like achy feelings," and Jerry's like, "Oh, it sounds like an impacted molar."
Of all the things, just like, oh, I know what it is.
He's a dentist. I mean, when all you got's a hammer, everything looks like a nail, right?
Yeah.
Yep,
It's not
exactly.
teeth. Oh, then I can't help you.
Yeah, it's not my teeth. Well, I'm done. So, but this is kind of weird to me. It just seems like a setup for a gag more than anything. Is I can't drive home. I'm sick. Can you take me home? I'm like,
Yeah.
well, it's not like you're blind. You know, if you can get. I'm sure you can get home, Bob. But I've never lived in whatever traffic he's in. So,
Well, not to mention the intro that shows him walking to work. I'm
oh
like,
sure,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
oh yeah. Well, maybe his parking garage is several miles away, Audie. Consider that.
It could be. It
Who
could
knows where he
be.
parks around here? But yeah, so he gets Jerry to drive him home. But just before that, it had a very 2020, 2021 pandemic feel to
Really
it.
did.
Uh-huh.
I was like, wow, they were really receptive to Jerry's just like, let me go grab my surgical mask because I don't know what the crap you're infected with.
Well, I love that.
And
Say
Carol
like,
goes, I'm
I'll
gonna
go get my
flu
overcoat.
shot.
I'll get my surgical mask. I'll go get my flu shot.
Very
was-
responsible, everyone. Good work.
Yes.
Everybody
A
did a
plus.
great job.
I
This
know.
was the early 70s. I mean, come on. They even knew.
Mhm.
It's crazy. So he gets home. The house call doctor is there. I don't know if there were house call doctors in the 70s, but I mean, I know that this is a TV set and they can't build another one. So
Yeah, there were a lot of I feel like a lot of sitcoms in the 70s and 80s had the home call doctor. Like I know Golden Girls did it a
Mhm.
couple of times
Mhm.
and it's just so much easier.
Well, I just assumed all these freaking doctor people lived in the same building for whatever reason,
they might.
you know? And it's just like, go call him up. He's some friend of yours, so okay.
Yeah, that's
yeah,
a
that
good
could
point.
be too.
Yeah. They all live in the same apartment building and make it easy
It
for
still
the
weirds
doctors.
me out, even with Perfect Strangers last week, that everybody apparently leaves their doors unlocked and just like knock knock, come in, okay. Boom.
Yeah, everybody just shows up in your house. I would not be okay with that. I love
It
a
was
lot
the
of people.
70s. It was a different time.
It was right after the free love movement. Everybody's walking in each other's tents all the time. Nobody had personal space back then.
No.
Yeah. So the doctor comes over. He tells him, "Well, you got tonsillitis. We're gonna have to yank him out." Bob's like, "Can't you use a different word, like ease him out?" He's like, "I use whatever word you want. They're still gonna get yanked." So
The doctor, who by the way was not Frank Oz, but
he
was
looks like him.
Yeah.
he was like a copy of Frank Oz.
Yeah.
Like it was like 2 or 3 generations of
Yeah.
Xeroxing
Yeah.
Frank Oz, and you get this guy.
Everybody on this show is people who have guested or been, you know, a recurring or cameo character in every other show I've watched. Like,
Yeah.
I think I've
Yeah.
seen all of these people in Night Court at some point. I think that's where my reference was for.
Maybe that's
Pretty
it. So anyway, the doctor's talking to them, and of course, Bob. The theme of this episode is to be people basically just abusing Bob without realizing they're abusing Bob, and mostly getting mad at Bob for things when he's just being normal. This is like kind of where this is where it starts, because the doctor starts fussing about or talking about how delicious Christmas dinner is going to be. Bob's like, "I'm not going to be able to eat it because I'm not going to have any tonsils."
I want to talk about raisins on ham.
Yeah, what's that all about?
What are we doing with raisins on ham, kids?
I don't know. Like
I don't know about
look,
raisins on ham.
Mm-mm.
I like raisins. I like
I
ham. I
do.
do not
I
want
don't
the
want 'em
two
together.
combined.
No.
A whole box.
I mean, I've seen it,
That's
but
a
I
lot
do
of
not condone it.
raisins.
Yeah.
That is a lot of raisins.
And what is a whole box? Are
Especially-
we talking like 20 ounce?
I think like the sun made little
Yeah.
square. You know, that's a significant number
Yeah.
of raisins.
Well,
And
I was
on
upset for like a
ham.
long time after that. I was like very confused about raisins
I
and
need
ham.
to pause
Look,
this.
I was already upset at the marshmallows on the sweet potatoes
I'm
because
not
I
a
don't
fan.
feel as though you need that either.
What?
Like I
You're
don't like
upset
that.
about that?
I love
We're
sweet
from the
potatoes.
north.
I like marshmallows. I'm not from the south, so I don't
Nah.
combine the two. But they wanted to do that, and I'm like, I'm already upset here, and now you start bringing raisins onto my ham. Stop what you are doing, not
least-
Frank Oz.
At least the marshmallows I understand. Like I get that. Fine.
Yeah, okay.
And then they throw raisins at me and I go, hang on. Back up, everybody. I don't understand anymore.
I'll tell you this. I was not familiar with marshmallows on sweet potatoes until I went to Texas Roadhouse once. And I ordered a sweet potato, and they said, "Would you like marshmallows and cinnamon on that?" I was like, "Wait, what? Is that a thing?" They said, "Yeah." And of course, me being me was like, "Well, yes.
Well, yeah.
I gotta know what that's all about." And I don't do it like ever because I don't have marshmallows in the house a lot. But it was good, and you should try it one day, Travis. Just put them on there.
Oh, I've tried it.
Oh, okay.
No. I've
You don't
tried
need
it.
them. No.
I don't need them, and I don't
Yes.
like it as much. But it was so that already had me on edge. It was the raisins on ham. Just
The
pushed-
raisins on ham, I don't.
Raisin sauce for ham.
It was a
is
bridge too far.
apparently a thing.
It's
I
a
don't-
thing. Okay,
No,
It's a thing.
Oh yeah, it's a thing.
it's wrong.
no.
Yeah.
There are a lot of things.
Thank you.
Viewers, listeners, let us know what the deal is with raisins on ham. If you're a ham and raisin person, I want to know why. I want a 3-paragraph essay on why you think it's good and why other people should like it. Due next week. Hook
And
me
who
up.
hurt you?
Yeah, where this sort of mental damage came from. We need to know. We need to resolve this. So this is where the doctor calls Emily over to have this quiet conversation about the ham, which is probably, now that we've all talked about it, it's probably a good reason. Like, you putting raisins on there? Yeah, I'm putting raisins on there. Good. But I don't want anybody else to know you're doing that.
No,
It's crazy.
It's your dark shame.
Yeah, it's your secret. So Bob can't hear their conversation. So Emily comes back over and he goes, "I'm not coming home, am I?" And I just love that, just that deadpan. This is
It's
the
such
end.
it's such a great gag because Bob already doesn't want to go to the hospital.
Yeah.
And the doctor's making it like into a big deal, and Bob's trying not to let it be a big deal. And then he calls his wife over to talk about dinner, but doesn't say that, just like, "Oh, by the way, I need to talk to you for a second."
Yeah.
Yeah. That's
And then
never
they
good.
whisper.
Mhm.
And yeah, so like I was with Bob there. I'm like,
Yeah.
yeah, no, I'm just this is how it ends, right?
This is
Yep.
I'm curtains. And one of the
Mhm.
recurring jokes that keeps coming up is they care. There's like, "Bob, you'll be fine." There's like, they do this to kids all the time. Well, they care about kids.
About kids.
Which I'm not gonna lie, that would be a thought going through my head. Like, they just
Yep.
expect adults to suck it up. They'll like make sure kids are okay.
Mhm.
Yeah.
You're in there waiting on the nurse. They're just like, "Well, you're in the hospital. Eat a butt. Just get better and get out." Kids are like, "Oh, sweetie, do you need more ice cream? We'll get you whatever you need," which is fine, but just don't
Yeah.
need to have your tonsils out when you're over 40. What did they say? Oh, he said that is
when
it
Bill comes
serious?
in, or
Is it
Howard.
serious when he's over 40? And they were like, "Oh, at his age, a hangnail is serious." Oh, that was
Yeah.
that got me good. And then, Audie, yeah, you were saying then Howard comes in, who is played by
Bill Daly.
Bill Daly. That's right. Major
Bill.
Healy himself has made a reoccurrence. I was shocked. I haven't seen this show in so long, and I was like, "Wait a second, that's Major Healy. He's like my
Mhm.
favorite part of I Dream of Jeannie, and he's gonna be my favorite part of this show too."
And he's not that different.
No, it's
Not
the same
much.
character.
It's a slightly older version of Major Healy.
Yeah, and I was trying to figure out, like, there's a joke that comes along later. Is it insinuated that he's in the military in this as well? Some
Yes.
sort of officer? Because it seemed to me that they kept making jokes about the war will break out.
Wikipedia says he's an airline navigator and later co-pilot. So
Okay,
he is totally the exact same character.
okay, yeah,
Excellent.
he's the same.
He's
guy.
already
Got
got
it.
all the words. It's good.
Mhm.
Yeah, this is just Major Healy in the witness protection program and move somewhere else.
Yeah.
It's
Basically.
perfect. That's perfect.
But I love that he's talked about his friend or a friend he
Oh
had
yeah.
had him out when he was 40 and said the late John Simpson.
So good.
And
This
just
is-
gives him a look like,
And he does it over and over again. Because
Mhm.
there's
Yeah.
Yeah, oh,
another
yeah.
one, and he's talking about like he had a friend there, and he's like, "Don't tell me about anything tragic." He's like, "No, he was fine. He lived another 2 years after that."
It's just exactly what your friends would do if you had to have a minor surgery and you were talking to them about it first. Like, anybody who has to have a colonoscopy, everyone gives you crap about it, like all the time. It's just gonna happen. So having your tonsils out, like, I would expect people to give me crap about having my tonsils
Yeah.
out. Like, what are you, 7? Like, come on, what are you talking? Leave me alone. So they end up going to the hospital for the surgery I guess it's the next morning or evening or whatever, to or they go that night because he's gonna have surgery in the morning.
mhm.
And Bob has to get his robe on. So there's, nurses milling about. When they leave, they tell Bob, "You can come out now from the bathroom." And he does the run that I would do if
Mhm.
I had to wear a
Absolutely.
hospital gown.
Okay, so when that happened in the episode, I immediately thought that is Steven in a hospital gown. Like, that is exactly what he would do, wearing a hospital gown.
I would like tuck
Is
it.
you're going to try and hold it closed and like shimmy across the room as quickly as possible. It's exactly what I thought. So
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
I would do it. I hate those things. They're the worst. I had to wear one like one time, and I had pants on, and I was uncomfortable. It's like, this is dumb. So I had to have like a chest X-ray thing, and I was like, oh
Yeah.
gosh, this is awful.
And I know it's a TV show, but good gosh, the difference in hospitals back
Oh,
then
yeah.
compared to now.
oh,
Yeah, there was nothing beeping in that room, like anywhere.
No.
It's just like a wall plate with doodads on it. Who knows what those do? You know,
A nice spacious room. There was
Yeah.
so much area in there.
Mm-hmm.
big spacious orange room because it's 1970.
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
This is-
Everything is orange or brown.
yeah, there's
It's orange and wood paneling in the 70s. That was
Yeah.
the color scheme.
that green
Of the
shag
decade.
carpet you find all blended. They're like, well, we could do opposite sides of the color wheel, but why don't we try all on the same side? Just
Yeah.
various
pretty
shades of brown together. We got pea soup, urine, dog crap. We'll put those all
Yeah.
together. Audie, you're an artist. Does this offend your sensibilities, or do you see value in it?
Not at all. I was just about to say, man, I wanted to give a little color to the sketch I did for this week's show because when you look at it, it's just all bleh. You know, the bed's a little lighter shade of bleh. The walls are a darker shade of bleh.
Yeah.
And everything else just kind of blends in together into a kind of white yellow bleh.
Then the curtain they pull between the beds is even like a hunter green.
Mhm.
What are we even doing? So they get there, that we meet the nurse, I think, at this point, which is not really a
Yeah.
nurse. She's a volunteer on the skeleton crew. And I meant to write down her name and I forgot. Did anyone catch the name of the it's Miss what?
Miss Loomis.
Mrs. Loomis.
Mrs. Loomis.
Mrs. Loomis.
The best is I looked up her credits and it is all Mrs. something or grandma. And then that's
Mhm.
it. That's everything she's done are various grandmas and Mrs. So and so. And I'm into
Yep.
it.
That's the best. She got started
Yes.
late, I guess, in the
Yeah.
acting biz.
Yeah, probably. And I mean,
She was born in 1889.
Oh my god.
Oh. And her first
right.
acting gig was in 1967 on Petticoat Junction.
Holy
oh,
cow.
there you go.
It's never too late.
So
It's
No,
never too
it's
late.
not.
really
And
not.
then right after that is Elderly Shoplifter, uncredited. Very good. Very good.
Who was her agent? Who
Fantastic.
found her? It was like, you know
I
what?
don't know.
This is gonna be
I know,
this
but
one.
you take the gigs you can get.
Yeah, you do.
Oh, she had the trifecta: Petticoat Junction, Beverly Hillbillies, and Bonanza.
All
Oh my
right.
God.
And,
There you
and
go.
Green Acres. She was in 5 episodes of Green
Oh my
Acres.
gosh. Well done, Mrs. Loomis. Good job. She did fantastic. I did have to turn the volume up some. I don't know what was
Yeah.
crispy audio or what, but I'm like, I gotta really listen to her. Like,
Mhm.
she just had old lady speech. You're just like, some of the words
did.
just kind of roll together a little bit. That's all right.
She had a lady speech. They had 1970 microphones. You know,
Yeah.
I was like, what is
Yeah, the
going on?
audio transfer on this on Hulu was not great.
No,
No.
it's pretty crappy.
It
It's-
sounded like everything was recorded through a burlap sack.
That's what pop
except
filters
the
look
very
like back then.
beginning with Carol's dialogue. For whatever reason, it sounded like that microphone was right on her mouth.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Might have been in her desk for all we know. Like, and that set is in every episode. So the hospital set was probably thrown together pretty
Oh, yeah.
fast. And the rest of them, the apartment, the office, those are things they use all the time.
Yeah.
So it's probably, they dialed that in. But this, and then having to figure out where to mic Mrs. Loomis, really, I'm sure if it could have been better, it would have been. But
Yeah.
it was just
Oh,
a
yeah.
struggle. So we meet Mrs. Loomis, who has a running joke of telling Mr. Henderson that he needs to get back in bed. Apparently, the neighboring
No matter who
hospital
it is.
patient was there, and she was taking care of him, and he's gone now. But then, basically, any male person is now Mr. Henderson to get back in bed.
No dessert.
Which tickled me. Yeah, that's right. They brought in, because as Major Nelson or Major Healy, Howard, who he's known in this weird alternate universe, was in there with them getting Bob settled. And she's like, Mr.
Yep.
Henderson, you should be in bed, and you can't have any dessert or whatever. So he doesn't get
Yeah.
anything special. But
Well,
they
it's funny
find out.
when he does that from behind the curtain too. He comes
Yeah.
out and she's like, "You can't have it." He's like, "Okay," and he
Yeah,
goes
he
back
just
behind the
accepts
curtain.
it.
because-
Like, why not? So they get Bob all settled. He's going to have his tonsils out. Everybody leaves. At this point, my wife, who was watching it with me, was like, there's no way I'd leave you in a hospital like that if I had nobody to go home to. I'm staying.
The best part, though, is her leaving
Uh-huh.
because she's just like, I love you so much, and these years with you have been the best of my life.
These last years with you have been the best.
Been the best. It's like, oh,
Just like
it's fine.
That's good.
Howard making the jokes that he's kind of oblivious to the type of joke that he's making, and then
Yeah.
she just leans into it.
Yeah.
Mhm.
She's just like, no,
Dives
we're
in.
just gonna go right for it, and I love that.
I told Stephanie, I said, if I ever have to go into some minor surgery and you don't talk to me like that, I'm gonna be very disappointed. Like I'm gonna
You're gonna
need
be worried that something is actually wrong.
Yeah,
You're
I'm
like,
gonna-
oh no.
Mhm.
Yeah, I'm gonna need you to go. Well, it was good. We had a good run. You just go to sleep now. That's what I'm gonna need so I can just laugh myself to sleep. So Bob then turns on the radio to start chilling out, and this is exactly what you would expect the radio to do. Because he's disappointed that he's gonna miss his Christmas dinner, his times with family, the whole
You didn't get to
shenanigans.
see the tree.
Yeah, didn't get to see the tree because in movies and TV, everyone decorates their Christmas tree on Christmas Eve. I
Yeah,
don't know. It's
For some-
stupid.
it's fine.
It
Mhm.
just plot demands it. So
We're very busy walking to work every day. We don't have time to put up the tree.
did the same thing on an I Love Lucy Christmas episode. It was like Christmas Eve. Like, what are you doing? You shouldn't have done this months ago, like a month ago. Get started. So he's not gonna be able to see the tree, and the radio comes on, and it's talking about, oh, imagine with your family nestled by the fire, enjoying the cracking of the logs or whatever. It's all this wonderful stuff, and it's like, and now the alarm sound. It just starts going for the old safety test. What do you call that? What they do on the radio back in the day? Test of the National
Emergency
Emergency
Broadcast
Broadcast System. That was it.
Mhm.
Yeah. I haven't heard one of those in a long time. Now my phone just goes off at 2 a.m. Wah, wah, wah. Blizzard incoming. You're like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Stop it. We're fine. I don't need this. So the next day, we kind of skip over a lot and go directly to he's out of surgery the
Yeah.
next
Mhm.
morning, and he's had his tonsils out, and he's wheeled back into the room. Not long after he gets into his bed, but as Elliot Carlin, his patient from the opening scene, swings in to have a little chat, because and he brings him some stuff, and Bob at this point keeps saying, "Water, I need water." I don't know if you can talk with
He's-
tonsils out,
Yeah.
but
He is just out of surgery
yeah.
in the show.
Which
Yeah,
is
like-
probably
He's
one of
way
my
too
favorite
coherent.
favorite lines. I just got out of surgery. Yeah, I know. I was up there trying to talk to you. You were out like a light. Like, dear God.
It was so
that-
good.
That
That was
dude,
brilliant.
oh, that guy,
He's everything.
Elliot Carlin, just
Mm-hmm.
no concept of anybody but
No.
himself,
No.
none whatsoever.
Yeah, and he's
At
in
least
therapy.
he's in therapy though.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
I'll give him
yeah.
that.
Sure.
He knows something's wrong. He just not
Yeah.
sure what it is.
Yeah.
But he brings Bob taffy. Bob says water, and he goes, "No, it's taffy." Like he just completely disregards him. What are you even talking about? And he starts telling Bob, this plays up later, that his toupee that he got himself is goat hair.
Mm-hmm.
That's his big problem. And it just kind of escalates from there to the point with the nurse coming in again to check on him, and Elliot just going, "Well, fine. You don't want me here. I was trying to take your mind off of your problems and put them on mine, trying to help out, and I'm leaving." And Bob's just like, "Water." And the nurse goes, you should be ashamed of yourself. You just kicked that poor man out of the room. He was trying to cheer you up. Then he says, "If you don't bring me water, I'm gonna break your arm."
I believe you would.
I think so too. But we've all been. You ever been in a hospital and you're just like, just bring me like anything, just some medicine, a glass of water. We've been in the emergency room with Sam before, and I'm like, can we get a glass of water or something for him? Oh, sure. 4 hours later, they come wandering back with discharge papers and a glass of water. I'm like, what, did you have to write it all down? I've never been a nurse. I'm sure it's a
They gotta
challenging job.
They gotta charge your insurance. You
Mhm.
know?
Every time
Okay,
they leave, I'm
so-
like, am I going to see them again?
I have to bring this up because watching the episode, even with the audio being as poor as it was, his voice the voice of Elliot Carlin.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
His voice was triggering something, and I couldn't think of what it was. You know what it was?
Oh yeah.
He was Stu Pickles in the
Yep.
Rugrats. He was the
Yep.
dad in
Yep.
Rugrats.
Holy cow! I had no
Yeah,
idea.
dude.
Yeah.
I had no clue either. And also his IMDb photo, he looks like Late Show with Dave. Like he looks like a clean shaven Dave.
Oh,
Yeah,
It's
wow.
kind of creepy.
It's wild.
Oh yeah,
But
okay.
yeah,
I remember his
Stu
picture. Yeah, he was Stu Pickles. How about that? Look at all the crossovers we got going on here. That's amazing.
Mhm.
He's so good
By the way,
too. Oh, go ahead.
he's great. We need to have a Mary Earl sliding scale because she, while not in the episodes we have watched, she has been in episodes of 5 shows we've covered on this.
Holy cow!
podcast.
Wow, that's
The
impressive.
old lady. The
The
old lady has been in 5 of them. Yes.
Dang.
Between it was she was in an episode of Bewitched. She was in an
Mhm.
episode of Green Acres, the Bob Newhart show. She was also in where did I see it here? WKRP in Cincinnati, and Laverne and Shirley.
Wow.
There you go.
So she got busy when she was 80 something. Her husband died, and she's like, "I'm going to LA. See what I
Right?
can see what I can do."
She was apparently supposed to be on Broadway, and she broke her hip during the pre-Broadway run, and so she didn't get to actually be on Broadway, but her name was on the
Oh.
poster.
Wow.
There you go.
Lakers and Carol
Dang.
Kane.
Well, yeah. We can still make it, y'all. We got time.
Yeah.
Got plenty
Mhm.
plenty of time. You know, it's your first career, and then there's your retirement career. I'm going to the Hollywood. Make it
Mhm.
happen. So they get out of there. Where do we go after that? We go back to Bob's apartment, or I guess it's Howard's apartment, where we find Howard and Jerry decorating the Christmas tree. And if you've ever decorated a Christmas tree with a particular kind of person, then you know everything that's going on in this scene, because everything that Jerry does, Howard redoes, which really made me laugh, because Stephanie and I do this, because she'll be like, "Help me zhuzh the tree." You know, when you got a fake tree, you got to zhuzh it.
You gotta zhuzh it.
You got to pull all the stuff to make it look full. And I'm very much, all these are going in different directions. That's probably fine. And I'll move on, and this one's going in good directions. And basically, as I go around the tree, she follows me around the tree, correcting my zhuzhing. I'm like, why am I even doing this? What am I participating in this game for? This is stupid. And then
It is important that you do it. Yeah, it's important that you do it incorrectly so that she can do it correctly.
Yeah. I don't know how wrong it is until someone else does it wrong, and then I can correct it.
Mhm.
Like, oh, okay. Yeah, which is kind of what's going on here. You know, you did it wrong. Well, let me fix it for you. And those are the biggest candy canes on a tree I've ever
They're
seen.
huge.
I haven't
Yeah.
I haven't decorated a tree from 1970, before, but they did it different than we
The
do.
best was he baked the cookie ornaments.
Yeah.
which
Yeah.
you can do, and they are generally inedible, and these definitely were. And that back and forth was so good. And it was like, I didn't make them for eating. Well, no kidding. You can't eat these. No, they're for hanging. That seems too good for him.
It was really good.
Yes, Dr. Jerry was my favorite. My favorite thing in that scene. Like he just, I don't know, there was something about it. Also, the actor
angel
has
bit.
a great name.
Oh, the
The angel bit was great.
What was
But
what's the
Dr.
actor's
Jerry
name?
played by Peter Boners.
Peter
with a Z.
Boners. Yeah. He never got a chuckle out of that before, I'm sure.
I'm sure he never did.
No, it went right over everyone's head. But Adi, you've been talking about the angel story since we got started. What?
Yeah, because Howard's like, what is it? Jerry starts to put on the angel, and Howard's like, "No, I always do it. I always do it for luck." I'm like, "What?" And he's like, "Yeah, I missed it one year, and the Korean War broke out." And then Dr. Jerry tells us his story of growing up in the orphanage.
Yeah.
And what
It's
their
like, why did
angel
you
was
even have
like.
me here? Like, you're just doing everything. Why did you? Well, you can't. You can't be with. We're friends, and you can't be with your family. I don't have a family. I grew up in an orphanage.
And that got started, and I'm like, oh no, this is going to be like a heavy moment in the episode. And no, not really. No.
I mean, yes and no. I mean,
Sure.
it was
It
heavy, but
was.
it was heavy in the
It
started
funniest
off
way
that
possible.
way. Yeah, it started off in that direction and then took a very sharp left.
Mhm.
Did not signal.
This
All
one,
we
you know,
had for an
this-
angel was a Dixie cup, but we couldn't put wings on it because it was also our Easter bunny and our pumpkin at Halloween. I was like, oh my gosh.
I love how he
Just
just
Howard
keeps
just
going.
like die. He's like, oh no, what have I done?
So Howard hands him the angel. He's like, thanks, Howard.
Yeah, just
Like,
all of a sudden right back together. We're good.
okay, Dixie
Yep.
cup. Dixie cup, Dr. Jerry? Really? I'm suspicious now. Of course, Howard is too, because he's warns, you know, if the war breaks out, it's your fault.
Yeah, I guess it's could happen. So then Emily comes in and she joins them for this tree thing. I don't know what all the relationships.
They were gonna go out to
are here.
dinner.
That's right. They were gonna go out to dinner. Then she comes back and says Bob is basically just a grumpopotamus. He was sent back the lemon ice cream because it was too yellow. Yeah, he's just fussing about everything. She says he hasn't been this angry since he sat on a bee. I was like, that sounds about right. You know,
So at this point, I was like, all you people, he just had surgery and had part of his body yanked out.
Yanked out.
mhm.
Can we not have a little compassion for the guy? I guess not.
Oh yeah.
Nope.
And this is not Christmas spirit at all, because it just basically a fight breaks out over who sits. You put the candy canes too high, or no? Emily walks in, just makes an observation. Oh, those candy canes are too low, or too high.
No, she
No,
says they're
she
too
says
high
they're too
because
high.
Yeah.
Howard made him move him up in case
So the dog doesn't get him.
So the dog
Right.
doesn't get it.
That he doesn't
You don't have a
have.
dog. I might get a puppy for Christmas.
And then Jerry's
just
like,
wanna-
see, I had him down.
Yeah.
I just want to live in Howard's world.
Oh,
Howard's
yeah.
world sounds nice.
It does.
she
And he
says
still
something
blames
about,
it on
like-
Jerry.
She says something about like, it just feels like a war is gonna break out. I was like,
Yeah.
We know who to blame for that.
I love how that gag runs through the rest of the episode too.
Yeah.
So they start to leave for dinner, and Howard's like, "Well, I'm going. I can't stay here with him." And then Jerry's like, "Well, I'm going with you because I can't, you know." With I don't remember the joke, but they all end up leaving together, and that's when the carolers start singing. At this point, you're like, "Oh, okay, this is what's going on. Why are they? Well, it's the neighborhood children singing." And they get over this argument, and Emily says, "Well, you guys are just so angry. Well, if you want to get rid of them, why don't you just pour boiling oil on them?" And then Howard says, I don't know what's going on. I don't think boiling oil is the answer. So they So they end up getting out of there and heading over to the hospital, where they can't find Bob. Bob is not in the room, and Mrs. Loomis comes in, fusses at another Mr. Henderson. Mr. Henderson, you look rough, or no, that was
Yeah, you should be in bed. You look terrible.
You look terrible. Like, okay. And they said, well, where's Dr. Hartley? He was here earlier. And she says, oh, he's gone to the big room upstairs. Like, wait, what room is that? The room, the children's ward. I sent him up there to hand out cookies or something like that because he was being a nuisance.
Take a walk.
Yeah,
He needs a good urchin, is what she said.
A birchin? I don't know.
And
what
I
that
had to
means.
look that word up, and I was like, okay.
Yeah,
It's just,
no, she was born in 1890.
Uh-huh.
Like, I get
Yep,
it.
exactly.
That's fine.
Oh yeah, it's probably Bob's grandmother said things like that. You know.
mhm.
So they basically sent him upstairs to try to find some Christmas cheer. The man just had surgery in his tonsils. He's stuck at the hospital, and they're, why aren't you happier? You know, what's wrong with you?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
giving is the cure. You know, that's the Christmas message. So they send him upstairs to the children's ward. He comes down, and as he walks to the door, and he says, "Hi, honey," because he sees his wife. But Miss Loomis is standing there. She says, "Don't you hi, honey, me." just tickled me to no end. I was super happy about that. So he says he had to go up and hand out sugar cookies and stuff, and he's basically relaxing now. He feels a lot better. He's feeling good. So he and Emily invite Mrs. Loomis to the house for Christmas dinner, and she says, well, what time is dinner? They said about 4:00, and she says, can I bring a date? Or no, she said, can I bring a date? And they're like, sure, you can bring a date.
Yeah, because that was the whole thing. Like, 'cause
Mhm.
she'd been a patient of his, and
Which,
he's like, oh well,
which continuity in the show, she was in 2 previous episodes of the show
Perfect.
as Mrs. Loomis.
Nice.
And so
okay.
she's talking about, like, she goes off on this whole thing about how, she's had a hard, it's been tough since her sister stole her boyfriend, so there hasn't really been anything serious, just like a few flings here and there.
Because
So
men
good.
only want one thing,
Men
Yeah.
only want one thing.
and they just let that hang there.
They
That
let
was
it-
cute.
It just hangs, and she just stares at him and walks away.
It's so good. So she says, well, can I bring my boyfriend? They're like, sure. And she says, what time's dinner? 4:00. Oh, good, because he usually drifts off by 6. This is just wonderful. And then the final joke after that, Carol asks, this got me good. When Bob finally comes back to the office, he's feeling better. Carol asks him, how's the Christmas dinner? And he says, fine, if you don't mind having sweet potatoes out of a straw and a glass of ham. And I was like, oh my gosh. That's the worst thing I've ever heard in my life.
So bad.
Like, I don't
When I
even
woke
want to
up-
know what he actually meant by that.
Yeah, when I woke up this morning, the phrase "glass of ham" not something I
Didn't-
expected to hear.
I didn't
but-
want it.
But here
Here
we are.
That was so good. So then Elliot walks in with his 2 Christmas, or not Elliot, Elliot Carlin walks in with his
Elliot,
2 gifts that we've been talking about this whole show. It's like what he's going to
Yeah.
give each other.
Mhm.
So he hands Bob one, he hands Carol one, and he looks at Carol, he says, is your husband allergic to, or does he have
Does
any
your
allergies?
husband like goats?
Does your husband like goats? Yeah. And she says,
No,
well, he's
she's
allergic to
allergic.
goats. Actually, he's allergic to goats. And he switches the presents. He's like, oh, well, you take this
No.
one, you take this one.
No, he's like, how does he feel about goats? He's allergic.
Okay.
How does he feel about sweaters? We can always use another sweater.
That's
and then,
right. He swaps.
Okay, let's do it this way.
It's my favorite way to end a show. And then, then that's the end of the Bob Newhart show. A fun episode of television. Speaking of ends, I did find this out about the season finale, like when they decided to close down the show and not do anymore. It's like season 6, I think they made it through. So I'm gonna read this because I thought it was really fascinating. By 1977, the show's ratings were declining and Newhart wanted to end it, but was under contract to do one more season. The show's writers tried to rework the sitcom by adding a pregnancy, but Newhart objected. I told the creators I didn't want any children because I didn't want it to be a show about how stupid daddy is, but we love him so much. Let's get him out of the trouble he's gotten himself into. Nevertheless, the staff wrote an episode that they hoped would change Newhart's mind. Newhart read the script, agreed it was funny, and then asked, who are you going to get to play Bob? I was like, that's good. That's real good.
So, when I look over Bob Newhart's kind of IMDb list of stuff that he has been in, you know what it makes me think of is, those musicians that'll be in like a platinum selling band, and then they do a side project that becomes a platinum selling band.
Yeah.
Mhm.
That's Bob Newhart. Like,
Yeah.
he did the Bob Newhart show. It was 140 something episodes, and then he goes right into Newhart, which does like 180 episodes. He had a third sitcom that only ran for one season called Bob that he starred in.
Mm-hmm.
So it was like, I don't know. It's just something about he's just like that artist. He can just
Yeah.
go from one thing to another, putting his name on it and doing well.
His brand of comedy
that.
just works real well with a lot of people. It's very clean. It's deadpan humor that people get.
And he surrounds himself with good writing.
Yeah.
And like the writing in this episode impressed me because they set up a lot of jokes and they paid them off later. You mentioned the joke where, Mrs. Loomis is like, oh, you're not allowed to have, you're not allowed to have any desserts.
Yeah.
And they pay that off at the end when she's coming around with the cookies and she goes to give one to him. And Howard's
He
like,
said,
you told me I can't have dessert.
Yeah. It reminded me a lot of,
So-
Arrested Development was a lot like that. Like a lot of
Yeah.
episodes of Arrested Development, the
Uh-huh.
setup was right at the beginning, and every episode the best episodes would close that out with like, it would all tie together. There'd be like 4 jokes just rolling down a hill, and at the end they would just, smash through the wall. That's the
Yeah.
way it worked. And this did feel that way too. It takes a lot of effort to kind of make that work organically the way they did.
Mhm.
But I definitely enjoyed seeing Bob Newhart again. Reminded me why I like that style and that humor so much. And hopefully maybe we'll get Newhart on the show at some point. We're definitely going to be doing this show for a while. So it's going to take a lot for y'all to kick me off of here. So until then, we're going to keep doing it. But we do need to hear about what we're going to do next week. So Amy is going to take us on the trip. Where are we going, Amy?
All right. So I agonized over this, you guys, because I didn't know if I wanted to do like my favorite Christmas special from when I was a kid, because that seemed like a good idea, or if I wanted to do like really good one. And so like I tried to think of something that was a little out there. And then I watched the episode and it was a little heavy. And I was like, nope, it's gonna be okay. It's very meaty. So of course, when you think Christmas, obviously you think Twilight Zone. Obviously.
Yeah.
Of course. Yeah.
So we're watching the Christmas episode of the Twilight Zone. It's season 2, episode 11, The Night of the Meek, available on Pluto and a few other places. But yeah. So this is a meaty one.
I'm excited. What better way to finish it out right before Christmas than with Twilight Zone?
Why not?
Yeah.
When I think Christmas, I think Twilight Zone. That's fantastic. Did we have any feedback on this episode at all? I don't think we did. I didn't see any.
I did not see any.
I'm not expecting the hip crowd on Twitter and Facebook and TikTok is going to be like, yes, I fondly remember Bob Newhart.
No, not really. We do, however, have a poll up on our Twitter account at Those Days Show. There is a poll now because we're going to need you to help us decide our next topic. So for the next week,
since we did that.
Yes.
Yeah,
for the next week from the recording of this, so you will have through Monday, what is it, the 20th, 19th. You will have through that day to decide if we are going to do cooking shows, educational shows, Mr. Wizard, Square One, that kind of stuff, police detective shows, or variety shows. So that one of those 4 is going to be our next topic. We have 15 votes so far, and there are 6.5 days left. So
that's probably the most votes we've had this early in the poll, like ever.
Yeah,
that's
definitely
good. Yeah, well done, audience. So hey, if you don't Twitter, like that's not what you do, you can also email us, and we'll count those in there. We'll get them in there.
Sure.
If you don't email, then you can send us a carrier pigeon. I don't know how else to get you to send us stuff. But
but don't send it to me because there is a hawk in my neighborhood.
Oh get intercepted. And we don't want that. Secret pigeon messages don't need to get intercepted. But this has been a wonderful show. Thank you guys for going on this journey back in time to the early 70s with me, Christmas, and Bob Newhart. And that is it. Join us next week. Follow us on Twitter at Those Days Show. Email us at thosewerethodaysshow@gmail.com. And you guys have yourselves a wonderful time. And for Adi, for Travis, for Amy, and for myself, we'll see you next time.